Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. We're brought to you by Higher Echelon as always. And today we're going to talk some Veterans Day. And we have former Army offensive lineman Mark Riegel here. Mark, thanks a lot for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sal.
Absolutely. Today, I just wanted to, just reflect a little bit on Veterans Day. My grandfather served in the Army. My father served in the Air Force. We don't talk about that too much.
Sure.
I just wanted to get on a former player just to talk about, maybe their experiences and stuff and what Veterans Day means to you. And maybe we'll start off with that question. What does Veterans Day mean to you the most? And what do you think about when today?
Yeah, I think it's funny. My kids, my son just came back from the Veterans Day Mass they had this morning, and it's one of my favorite days of the year because I always use it as an opportunity to reflect, think about myself, think about how am I, as a veteran. Obviously, it's a salute to veterans and their service, but I also look at it as a little bit of a check-in with myself on how am I doing. Am I living the kind of life personally, professionally that would be make other veterans proud? Is consistent with the service and the high standards that we have set for ourselves and the background I come from. So it's always a for me it's a little bit of just a thoughtful day, a day of reflection, and a little more motivated, and just to make sure I get my workout in for the day and all those things. And so I love it. It's a humbling day too. You realize, hey, it's you got to serve and stuff. I always feel a little weird when people thank you for your service. I feel like I was blessed and humbled with the opportunity to be able to serve and honored to do it. And I gained a lot of great skills and experiences and met a lot of great people along the way that have helped me be successful. And man, I'm humble about that. And I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be where I'm at without my service and time in the military. So.
Yeah, no doubt. We talk about like the Army Football Brotherhood, and we talk about, what it's like when there's football games going on in the season, but then after graduation in West Point, and how that how that brotherhood and how you move on to your service time. And maybe we talk about the service time before your football time at West Point, maybe. And you said you learned a lot of lessons, and maybe you could just fill people in about what life was like for you after graduation at West Point.
Sure. I graduated in 2002, so I was at the Global War on Terror years. I was one of the seniors. You've talked to some of those guys before, Chad Jenkins, Dustin Plumidor, Paul Henderson, that whole group. We all, Amari Thompson, Brent Dial, we all graduated that year of September 11th. And we all knew for, the years we were going to be active, we were going to see something. It was a new time. I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas as a field artillery officer. I was with the 1st Brigade of the 1st Infantry Division, and not long after we got there, we found out we were deploying to Iraq. And spent most of I stayed in for 5 years, had realized that it was a great, rich, and exciting 5 years, but it was the right time to do something different. I felt like I had given the Army I had gotten from and had given the Army, I think, my best, and it was time to do something else. Just kind of the right calling. And so, did that. It's just funny. It's funny stories though too. You just since I kind of made me think of it, Sal. But I was not long after we had gotten into Iraq. I was in Ramadi, and I was there a few days, and I'm sitting there, and I had some guys in my unit that I knew and stuff, and I'm sitting there and I look up and I see, if you remember years ago, Sean Castillo and Dave Hegeman.
Yeah.
I see them both walking by. They were in a unit that we were replacing, and it was like the greatest feeling in the world just to see somebody and a brother, and it just was very energizing. And I ran into other guys along the way and whatnot, but it really is nothing like the Army Football Brotherhood, because you can go anywhere in the world and you run into people, and it gives you hope, it gives you strength, because you know that there's just great people out there that have been through an experience that that you've been through, and just gives you strength and all those things. So it's just kind of an interesting way to start out our deployment.
Yeah, we had Dave Hageman on the podcast not too long ago, earlier this season, and he had some great stories to tell about his service time. And
Yep.
it's not passing the torch, but you were kind of maybe handed the torch from Hageman and Castillo to
Yep.
your unit, right? Is that how
Yep.
you felt a little bit, or no?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We got there, and their unit, they were in the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment unit. We were coming in, and I saw them. They gave me, just quickly. We didn't have a lot of time to chit chat, but they were already moving on to a different place, and so it was just good to see them. And they shared a little bit of, some insights about the area and some things we were in. I don't even know. I'm sure they remember that, but I know I remember. So
Yeah.
I was a young lieutenant at the time. They were a couple years ahead of me. So yeah, good guys.
Did you were you in pretty heavy area where it was pretty intense during your service time there in Iraq, or what was that like?
Yeah. Ramadi was the Sunni Triangle, about 45 minutes west of Fallujah. So when we had gotten there, the first few IEDs had gone off, which was a big deal, and everyone was adjusting to how to navigate that in a new kind of combat environment. So we were in a very active space. We didn't know it at the time. It was still very early in 2003. But nothing. Well, I mean, the Army was new environment, new experience for the Army. At the same time, you really look back on it. I mean, nothing like the game of football prepares you for combat. And I still to this day I coach. I tell young boys and playing. I'm telling you, there's nothing like the game of football, because it's like life intensified, and everything you take away from that game. I never once felt worried or like I didn't know what I was doing, because you just fall back on a lot of the principles and a lot of the experiences you take from that game, and you can figure it out. There's always hope. You're never out of the fight.
Yeah, and you learn a lot from football, and I'm sure you learned a lot from your time at West Point. That's what you're trained to do there, right? You're trained to go into combat if warranted and needed. And I wonder if is there anything that you took specifically from maybe being an Army football player to your service time, like in a situation where it was kind of tough?
I don't know if it was just one thing, but everything from being able to deal with tough situations, just all the things that come along with the game of football, with the heat and making a roster and competing, but also we had some transition with football coaching staffs, and figuring out where your place is on a roster, and being a team player, and all the things that come along with the game. It's so dynamic. All the things you learn in life and you take with you. You see those same things whether you work in business or education or healthcare or other. It's all the same stuff. So I don't know if it was one thing, but really, I think what West Point and the game of football teaches you is learning how to be resilient. Is probably the biggest thing that the academy and even in football, they just pound that into you. The ability to be resilient when things get tough, when things change, and being flexible, and never being able to confront the brutal facts, but also having this unwavering optimism that you're going to win, you're going to succeed. And it's probably the biggest things for me that I took away.
Yeah, just talking to guys and their past experiences and serving during that time, I can only imagine like some of the situations you were put in. But like you said, your outlook was looking at it. There's always a way. There's always hope, and that's got to be definitely something that got you through, no doubt. What happens after your 5 years in the Army? What does your life take? Where does your life turn to?
Well, yeah, it was a really significant time in my life, because for a lot of guys, I went to the prep school, so you spend 5 years between the prep and the academy, and then 5 years of active duty. That's 10 years of your formative life at a young age, and really did a lot of introspection to think about, what am I going to do next? What do I want to be when I grow up? Although I think a lot of us still ask ourselves that, right? But I found a call to really felt like my interest and skill set felt like it kind of was being pulled towards the business world. So after that, I ended up working in the consumer packaged good space, I worked at Kraft Foods right out of the military, which was challenging and a great position, great role. It was right for me. I knew I didn't want to go to med school or be a lawyer or anything. Just didn't want a good fit for me. Ended up in business, and I haven't looked back. The guys always joke with me because as a former offensive lineman, I ended up in food marketing. So everything I do is around food, and I think I'm in the right spot. So worked in a number of big companies over the years, and in the last almost 4 years, I acquired a food company, and now I run and own a pretty large food operation. It's actually in New Jersey. I live in Kansas City, but ended up acquiring a food business, and I love it.
Nice.
It's great, and opportunity to take a lot of the things that we learned from football, from the Army, and from business, and how to do it. We're not necessarily saving people's lives or protecting lives, but we are really, to me, it's very important that I'm aware of and taking care of people's livelihoods, right? If we do well, if I'm a good leader, we'll make sure we can pay our people back, and we can reward people, promote people, challenge them, grow them. And that's what people want. I think people want to feel like they're a part of something. So that's what I get to do every day, and I really enjoy it.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool that you own a company in the Garden State in New Jersey, one of the greatest states of the 50.
I didn't have that on my bingo card of life, but it wasn't lost on me when the opportunity popped up, Sal, that I was like, wow, this is good. A company that's only about an hour away from Mikey, this will work.
Yeah.
So try to get out there a bunch.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you been able to go to some games? Have you been able to go to games this season?
I haven't been yet. We are going to the Army-Navy game.
Nice.
That'll be fun. Well, the first year we bought the business, it was when the game was at MetLife. So I had a big group tailgating outside of MetLife for when the Army-Navy game was there. So next time it comes around in a few years, I'll definitely increase our tailgate presence at that one.
Very cool. Very cool. Hey, let's get into your how we always talk about. Usually, first we talk about like your recruiting story, your path to West Point. How did that work out? Tell us a little bit about how you got into West Point, how they found you, maybe how you found them.
Sure. I'm from Illinois, actually, originally the south suburbs of Chicago. I remember it's a quick funny story, but I was an only child, and my mom was a night nurse, and my dad was a farmer. Nobody really been to college. I had gone to a college fair with my parents, and they were looking at the little pamphlet. There was like 3 schools where the tuition was $0, And so my mom and dad were like, "Hey, that you should." And one of them, she pointed to Navy because a friend of hers had a son that had gone into the Navy and really loved it. So I told my football coach in high school, had asked if, "Hey, is there anybody if I can get him in here, is there anybody you'd like to have, to talk to?" And I told him Navy. He's like, okay. So I don't know, a bunch of weeks went by, and I get a slip to come down to the office because there's a coach there recruiting. And my coach goes, "Hey, who'd you want to talk to? Army?" And I said, "Sure." And it was Bill Sheridan at the time was the DB coach. And he pops a VHS tape in the thing and shows me, because that was the year Army had just went to that was the 96 team that went to the. So I'm watching this as a high school junior, like Army's here, like talking to me, and I had the grades and close enough on the ACT. They said, "Yeah, we think you're a fit. You could probably go to the prep school. That give you a year to mature and all those things." And so the rest is history. I had talked to a number. I mean, I was probably going to go to some. I didn't want to go to a huge school. I wasn't really interested in that. I definitely wanted to play football at some next level because I love the game. I probably would have ended up at Milliken, which is funny. That's where Monken's from, or FCS, or maybe got a chance to walk on somewhere. But Army was pretty early in the process for me. So when I had the opportunity, I was all in. I just wanted to go. And I think you'll hear that as a consistent story for a lot of guys. I listen to your podcast quite a bit too, and I hear people saying the same thing. It's just funny how that works and unique for Army.
Yeah, appreciate that. Did you know the Monken name in Illinois when you were
No,
no, because
no.
different area a little bit.
Yeah, probably. I live closer to the city, closer to the suburbs. I think they're from west or
Juliet,
south.
maybe.
Yeah, Joliet, where I lived, is not that far. But yeah, when I was, I did. It wasn't. I had not heard about them, but I am now.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Because a
it's
lot of
pretty.
people are from that area and know the whole people. They know the family and friends of friends and those things.
They recruit Illinois pretty heavily too. I mean,
Right.
Paulo Generali, their starting guard, is from there, and he's just had an incredible year. Right,
Yep.
probably somebody that you may be watching this year.
Yep. A lot of good football in that area.
Yeah, talk about your time at Army as a football player and what your favorite memories might be, or maybe some stories about being a player.
Yeah, I started off. I was a tackle, recruited to be a tackle. At the prep school, I just felt like there was a calling to maybe try to be a tight end. I played basketball, so I had never had a problem catching the ball. So I kind of asked if I could play tight end, and I did come in as a plebe, where they allowed me to play tight end, which in those years is a glorified tackle anyway.
Yeah.
But I was on a scout team my whole freshman year, and then my sophomore year, they told me, "Hey, you got to go back to tackle." So I kind of burned my whole sophomore year putting a bunch of weight on. I think I was about, after Camp Buckner and everything, I was just really struggling to keep it around 230, 235 pounds. And when they told me it was go back to tackle, I spent my whole sophomore year, and all the O2 guys will remember this, but I spent my whole sophomore year just in the weight room and eating like a maniac. And then after that was the year when Coach Barry was hired, I showed up at spring ball at about 275, ready to go. And what was interesting about that, and I know people will have their memories about that whole time period, but when Coach Barry came in and Coach Bond and Coach Etheridge, that was kind of offense I played in high school. So it actually turned out to be a really good fit for me personally, and just that kind of balanced run pass philosophy we had. And I went from not being a scout team guy to making the travel squad, and then being on the 2 deep my senior year behind Alex Moore, who was a great guy and just a beast. And I had at that point felt like I had accomplished anything I was ever going to accomplish. I was playing football at college. There's just not that many people that play college football when you start to do the math on, from high school to college. And I just felt like, man, worked hard, and I got on special teams and was able to make the travel roster and play with some great guys. And obviously the favorite memory was beating Navy that year with that year in the September 11th year, and President Bushman in the locker room and Schwarzkopf running around. And it was such a crazy. Were you there, Sal?
I did not cover the team back then. No, I didn't.
Okay, I couldn't remember,
Yeah.
but it was just wild. It was a really crazy, wild time when we were only a few months removed from September 11th.
Crazy.
I had my whole family come out to that game, and I remember they were, when the helicopters flew over and the jets flew over, everybody was real on high alert, if you remember.
Yeah.
Around that time, and it was just a really, really, I don't want to say fun, but a memorable time where people just really were pride in America and purpose and all those things. So yeah, great time. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, you look at that game, right, and the importance of that game, and from Army to win that game, and then some tough times followed, but that was a big one to get. And now it seems like it's kind of not academic, but if you look on there was a stat out there, right? They're winning like 12-4 in their last service academy games or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like, and beat Air Force again, and now the Navy game at Northwest Stadium, have to catch that in the DC area. That's going to be a huge game. Navy's lost 2 games, but Army's still undefeated. Maybe just as we close this out a little bit, maybe just talk to me a little bit about what you've seen. I mean, I'm guessing you're following the team this year in their 9-0 season, and what have you seen from this team? What impresses you the most about this team? And if there's anything that maybe you see in there and say, hey, yeah, maybe that's something that I remember back when I played. So
yeah, well, I think the biggest thing that stands out, and we've had some great Army teams these last few years, right? This is a confident team. I don't want to say we've made mistakes in the past, there's always the Service Academy, the Army, even Navy this year is playing very confident.
Yeah.
Army is playing on another level of confidence, and I don't mean that in a cocky kind of way. I mean, this is a team that believes that they really believe they're going to go out and win, and confidence and execution. They are dialed in at the highest level right now in performance, and so, wow, it's pretty cool to see. And I would say what I think is interesting right now in high school and going into college football right now is I think Army. I don't know if Coach Monk will ever say it, but I think they're benefiting with all this chaos in college football. I have to believe it. I have to believe that they're recruiting kids that want to just be part of something, that don't want to go move around every year to go find a new coach and to find a new program. Yeah. And you're going to pick up a couple. You're just going to get some talented players who don't want to deal with that mess, who want to play big-time college football. We're in a conference. We have a chance to get to the college football playoff. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but these guys look like some of the – I don't know if Mark Riegel is going to be playing on this Army football team. If we go back in time to where I was, I would have been happy to be on the scout team on this kind of team. These guys are really, really good, really athletic, really confident, and it is a lot of fun. Every game that goes by right now, we're all bunch of us are texting every day about it. It's like, enjoy the ride right now. And if we can get this somehow, we get this game next week, 2 weeks against Notre Dame, look out.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, and it's a game where in the past you would say, but this year,
yep.
There's certainly a chance, and play the brand of football that they've been playing all year long. And why couldn't they be in the game in the fourth quarter?
Absolutely.
I don't see any reason why they can't. The offensive line, right? I don't know if you follow, but those guys, Monken called them in his press conference after the North Texas game the best offensive line he's ever coached.
I believe it. Because you watch them, they're Brady Small and the other guys. I mean, they are pushing people off the ball, and that is. That drive they had the other day for 94 yards in 14 minutes. And it's like, what's the best way to beat a team that averages 40 points? Just don't let them have the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a lot of fun. As a lineman, I take a lot of pride in watching that. And so pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw a stat where I think they had like maybe the first couple drives, North Texas had like 29 total plays. I think they ended up at like mid 50s. So like, after your first two drives, you only run like 27. It's crazy, right. And they only didn't even have the ball in the third quarter. It's really crazy. I think you're on point there with the maybe the coaching. It's not just Monken; it's the coaching staff. I think this is a pretty good coaching staff. These are guys that have been together the core's been together for a while, and they brought in the right assistant coaches. They brought Danny Burpale back as a safeties coach. He's been excellent. They brought Aaron Smith as a wide receivers coach. His dad, I believe, was a West Point graduate. He knows what West Point is about. They're bringing in the right guys, and they made the right decision with Cody Worley. Cody Worley, the offensive coordinator, has just been pretty one of the best in the country. I'll just say it. And that helps. And when you can recruit and you have a grad like Mike Vitti on staff who played football and was a captain, that doesn't help. And you have Blake Powers, who may not have went to West Point, but he served in the Army, so he knows what's all about. The whole group this is a great core. I mean, I can go on and on about Sean Saturnio, John Luce, Sean Cronin, Daryl Dixon. I'll just name them all. Matt Brinkle.
Hey, what I'd say about you got to envy. You got to Coach Monken and some of the personnel decisions he had to make, though. Man, I don't envy his position as a leader, because I know I don't know him personally, but I'm sure those were gut-wrenching decisions for when Brent Davis and then the decision he had to make last year. But I mean, that is I got to only believe Coach Monken did everything with the right intent of the program and to treat people the right way. It seemed like he did it the right way, but he had to confronting the brutal facts. It just wasn't working, and he had to make a call. And I think that's what Coach Monken gets paid the big bucks for, to make those big decisions. And he's been right more than he's been wrong, I'd say, in the last the time he's been at Army.
Yeah, I'm not going to say thank goodness about the Coastal Carolina game last year, but that certainly opened up eyes when they went back to more of an under center offense and they were able to move the ball almost the same that they were year back. And Tyson Riley deserves a lot of credit
Yep.
in that game. He had 100 yards, and he deserves that game deserves a lot of credit about why they went back. Coach Munkin said once he saw that, he kind of thought
Yep.
that, hey, we're going back to this next year. So it's been a real blessing for them. They're 9-0. Notre Dame bye week. Notre Dame next week. There's going to be a lot of hype around that game. Notre Dame beats Virginia. They're already a top 10 team. So who knows what happens?
They'll probably bump up a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll see if Army can move up a little bit in the college football playoff on Tuesday. Doesn't really matter where they stand in the rankings as long as they're ranked, because if Boise State were to take a loss or anything like that, who's the next group of 5 team up would get that spot in the college football playoff. So just hang in there, Army fans. And
that's right.
Mark, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for doing this kind of on the whim here. We really appreciate it. And guys, check out our podcast on our YouTube channel. We just got 1,000 subscribers. So happy about that. Want to get there, got there. And we want to get more interviews with grads like Mark on our channel. So stay tuned for that. Mark, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Al.